Welcome back for the NFL Week 3 action of Pigskin Postweek. Week 3 commenced with the New England Patriots and New York Jets Thursday night as Zach faces off with the Flagget. Ready to pick up right where he left off, Zach was counting on Ramondre Stevenson yet again, who had weeks of 21 and 16 points. Unfortunately, he might as well have been ruled out in this one, netting only 23 yards with the fumble for 0.3 of a point. Green Bay's defense helps immensely as they stomp the Titans with 2 interceptions, one of which goes for 6 and also a fumble recovery gaining 24, which notched Zach with the $10 weekly payout for most defensive points. In addition, the waiver ad of Juwan Jennings had Christmas come early for Zach as he was all of San Francisco's offense Sunday, gaining 11 receptions on 12 targets for 175 yards and 3 trips to the end zone, putting up an insane 42 points. Which locked in this week's $20 payout also for most wide receiver points. The Flagget, who recently acquired Derrick Henry in a trade, certainly needed every bit of it as he lights up for nearly 31 with 150 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Chris Olave has a nice day with 6 catches, 86 yards and a score, and his go-to chief, Rashee Rice, has 12 receptions, 110 yards and a tutty for 24. The Flagget gains his first win of the season, 123-116. The next battle was between the Beers and Preakness Pie as the Bengals players for Mike finally showed up to play some football. Joe Burrow comes out slinging for 26 points with 324 yards and 3 touchdowns, 2 of which were to Jamar Chase, who nets nearly 28, tacking on 118 yards on 6 receptions. Preakness has a typical Josh Allen start, who is close to 31, as he airmails 4 touchdowns on 263 yards passing. Saquon Barkley was in his usual workhorse fashion with 32.6, carrying for 147 yards and 2 scores, and St. Brown gained 17 with a 775-1 stat line for Detroit this week. Everything was aligning for Milwaukee Bears to gain his first victory, and that was until Dallas Cowboys defense actually costed him points against Baltimore Ravens. With 0 sacks, 0 turnovers, allowing 28 points and nearly 500 yards of total offense, they scored -5.5. The Bears unfortunately fall for a 3rd straight loss, 114-125. Worthy of some head might have to start giving it out after this week's showing against Judge Judy. The only player to show up to work this week was Lamar Jackson, who scores 26 with 87 yards rushing, 182 yards passing, and 2 total touchdowns. Tyreek Hill is a lost cause without Tua, who gets 3 receptions for 40 yards, and boomer bust Rashid Shaheed has a bust with a goose egg on 5 targets. Judge Judy just keeps winning as Zach Moss gets 18.2 on 97 all-purpose yards with the score, and Dallas Goedert snags 10 of 11 for 170 yards for 23 fantasy points. Strength of schedule or not, look out for Judy as he looks to get back Jordan Love next week as he takes down Worthy 107-70. Matchup number 4 sees Pollard against Christian Mingle. No McCaffrey, no problem for Mingle as Chuba Hubbard tallies 169 combined yards with the touchdown reception for 26.5 points. DK Metcalf pencils in over 19 with 4 for 104 and a score. And Chris Godwin continues a 2019-like season with 6 for 53 and a touchdown for over 14. Pollard tried keeping pace but ultimately ran out of steam as David Montgomery continues to find pay dirt, scoring 20.7 with 105 yards rushing and a trip for 6. And Malik Neighbors, who will be in the running for Rookie Offensive Player of the Year, scores twice on 8 receptions for 78 yards, gaining over 24. The unfortunate start of Derek Carr was a costly mistake in this one though, as he only puts up 8 points while his 2 backups each score around 30 on his bench. Christian Mingle remains unbeaten, 100-89. The final game of the week brings in 2 winless desperately seeking their first victory, Steel Reserve and Valor Magoulas. This one got off to an interesting start after the announcement of Andy Dalton getting the nod for Carolina. Steel acquires Adam Thielen in a trade and plugs him heads up on Deontay Johnson for Magoulas. Thielen finds the end zone after 3 catches and 40 yards for 11.5, but he also finds injured reserve as a hamstring injury will sideline him for at least 4 weeks. Johnson took full advantage, also scoring 6 with 122 yards on 8 receptions, putting up over 23 points. Keep an eye on these Panther wideouts as the season progresses with Andy Dalton under center. The afternoon game between the Niners and Rams saw Steel's Brock Purdy throw for almost 300 yards with 3 touchdowns for nearly 26, and Valor's Kyron Williams also finds the end zone 3 times, scoring for over 30 with 116 combined yards. It all came down to Sunday night as only 5 points separated these two. Early on, Kyle Pitts receives a 55-yarder for Evan that makes this contest deadlocked. Luckily, that's all he does, as Darnell Mooney does just enough to seal it with 8 receptions for 66 yards. Dalton Kincaid pours on an extra 11 points for Watt on Monday night as Steele finally gets his first win of the season, 140 to 119. Tune in next week for scores, stats, highlights, and more with Pigskin Postweek.